This is Chairwoman Jane Lichter. I call to order the meeting of the Board of Education of Baltimore County for Tuesday, May 5th, 2026. This evening's Board of Education meeting is being broadcast through the BCPS online live meeting broadcast and on BCPS-TV, Xfinity Channel 1073, and Verizon Fios Channel 34. In order to efficiently conduct this meeting, all voting items this evening will be done by roll call vote. May I have a motion to go into closed session as permitted by the Open Meetings Act as found in the Annotated Code of Maryland, General Provisions Article 3-305 B1 and B7 to discuss the appointment, employment, assignment, promotion, discipline, demotion, compensation, removal, resignation, or performance evaluation of appointees, employees, or officials over whom it has jurisdiction, or any other personnel matter that affects one or more specific individuals, and consult with counsel to obtain legal advice.
So move, Young.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second to convey.
Thank you. May I have a roll call vote, please?
Ms. Domanowski? Ms. Henn?
Yes.
Ms. Frempong? Ms. Ogumbe?
Yes.
Ms. Delusky?
Yes.
Dr. Savoy? Mr. McMillian?
Yes.
Ms. Pumphrey?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Ms. Lichter?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening. This is Chairwoman Jane Lichter. I now call to order the meeting of the Board of Education of Baltimore County for Tuesday, May 5th, 2026. I invite you to recite the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag to be led by Ms. Forsyth Ongambe. We will then have a moment of silence in recognition of those who have served education in Baltimore County. Thank you. Tonight's Board of Education meeting is being broadcast through the BCPS online live meeting broadcasts and on BCPS-TV, Comcast Xfinity Channel 1073, and Verizon Fios Channel 34. In order to efficiently conduct this meeting, all voting items this evening will be done by roll call vote. The first item on the agenda is the consideration of the May 5th agenda. Dr. Rogers, are there any additions or changes to tonight's agenda?
I am unaware of any additions or changes to tonight's agenda.
Okay. Hearing none, the agenda stands as presented. Earlier this evening, the board met in closed session pursuant to the Open Meetings Act for the following reasons: to discuss the appointment, employment, assignment, promotion, discipline, demotion, compensation, removal, resignation, or performance evaluation of appointees, employees, or officials over whom it has jurisdiction, or any other personnel matter that affects one or more specific individuals, and consult with counsel to obtain legal advice. The next item on the agenda is personnel matters, and for that I call on Mr. McCall. Good evening.
Good evening, Chair Lichter, Superintendent Dr. Rogers, and members of the board. I'd like the board's consent for the following personnel matters. Tonight we have retirements, resignations, and leaves.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve the personnel matters as presented in Exhibits D1 through D3?
So move Pumphrey.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second, Young.
Frimpong.
Thank you, thank you. Any discussion? May I have a roll call vote, please?
Ms. Dominowski?
Yes.
Ms. Henn?
Yes.
Ms. Frempong?
Yes.
Ms. Ogumbe?
Yes.
Ms. Delusky? Dr. Savoy?
Yes.
Mr. McMillion?
Yes.
Ms. Pumphrey?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Ms. Lichter?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. McCall.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is administrative appointments, and for that I call on Dr. Rogers.
Thank you. Madam Chair Lichter and members of the board, I'm bringing forward the following administrative appointments for your approval. Executive Director, Department of Special Programs and Grant. Principal, Catonsville High School. Principal, Middleborough Elementary School. And Seniors Operations Supervisor, Office of Facilities Maintenance.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to approve the administrative appointments as presented in Exhibit E1?
So moved Frimpong.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second Savoy.
Thank you. Any discussion? May I have a roll call vote, please?
Ms. Dominowski?
Yes.
Ms. Henn?
Yes.
Ms. Frempong?
Yes.
Ms. Ogumbe?
Yes.
Ms. Delusky?
Yes.
Dr. Savoy?
Yes.
Mr. McMillion?
Yes.
Ms. Pumphrey?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Ms. Lichter?
Yes.
Thank you.
Dr. Rogers?
Thank you. Our first appointment this evening is Jacob Bostowick. Please stand to be recognized. Jacob is attending this evening with his guest, Wayne Belt Jr., and is being appointed as the Senior Operations Supervisor in the Office of Facilities Maintenance. With 18 years of service with Baltimore County Public Schools, Jacob's prior experiences include building service worker at Middleborough Elementary, building service floor care worker with the Office of Facilities, assistant building operations supervisor at Perry Hall High School, building operations supervisor at Kearney Elementary and Sparrows Point Middle and High Schools, preventative maintenance technician with the Office of Facilities Operations, and lead building automations technician, senior facilities inspector, and field representative with the Office of Facilities Maintenance. Congratulations, Jacob. Our next appointment is Ann Kress. Annie is attending this evening with her husband Jason and is being appointed as the principal, Catonsville High School. With 16 years of service with Baltimore County Public Schools, her prior experiences include social studies teacher at Dundalk High and Catonsville High School and assistant principal at Catonsville High School. Prior to that, Ann served as a program director for Teach for America and a social studies teacher in Baltimore City Public Schools. Congratulations. Our next appointment for this evening is Amy Remecki. Please stand to be recognized. Amy is attending this evening with her husband John and is being appointed as the principal at Middleborough Elementary School. With 18 years of service with Baltimore County Public Schools, her prior experiences include elementary classroom teacher at Randallstown Elementary and Warren Elementary Schools, staff development teacher at Essex Elementary School, and assistant principal at Seneca Elementary School. Congratulations. Our next appointment this evening is Michelle Stansberry. Woo! Michelle Stansberry is attending this evening with her daughter and her soon-to-be son-in-law, William, and is being appointed as the Executive Director in the Department of Special Programs and Grants. With 27 years of service with Baltimore County Public Schools, Michelle's BCPS experience includes elementary classroom teacher at Helpville Elementary School, mentor teacher at Powhatan Elementary School, and specialist, supervisor, coordinator, and director in the Office of Title I. Congratulations.
Congratulations to everyone. Our next item is public comment. This is one of the opportunities the board provides to hear the views and receive the advice of community members. If not selected to address the board, members of the public may submit their comments to the board members via email at boe@bcps.org. The Baltimore County Police Department's Homeland Security Unit and Office of School Safety has recommended safety and security protocols, which are posted in the boardroom and available in board docs and on the board's participation by the public website. While we encourage public input on policy, programs, and practices within the purview of this board and this school system, this is not the proper forum to address specific student or employee matters or to comment on matters that do not relate to public education in Baltimore County. Inappropriate personal remarks or other behavior, such as language that promotes violence against a BCPS employee or that disrupts or interferes with the conduct of this meeting, are out of order and will not be tolerated. Persons who otherwise disrupt or disturb this meeting will not be allowed to continue their remarks and will be escorted from the meeting. Please observe the 3-minute clock, which will let you know when your time is up. The microphone will be turned off at the end of your time or prior to that time at the discretion of the board chair. We will begin with our unions, and our first speaker virtually is Mr. Billy Burke.
Evening, members of the board. I am Billy Burke, the Executive Director of CASE. I speak before you tonight to give voice to a question that is currently echoing through every hallway, office, and classroom in this district. It is a simple question, but the silence following it is becoming deafening. What is the plan? Our administrators are committed to success and safety of every student. However, we are facing a mathematical impossibility. We are being asked to raise achievement scores and tighten safety protocols while simultaneously facing significant staffing reductions. You cannot ask leaders to do more with less indefinitely without a roadmap. Our members need to know how they are expected to bridge the gap between rising expectations and shrinking resources. The uncertainty is perhaps most acute for our assistant principals. We have dedicated CASE members and central office staff who have been told their positions at their current schools and offices are being eliminated for next year. They are professionals, they understand the budget realities, but they are currently living in a professional limbo. How can we expect these leaders to finish the school year strong, providing resources and services, administering standardized testing, managing finals, graduations, and school climate when they don't know where they will be come July? We need a clear timeline and a transparent plan for these reassignments. They deserve the respect of knowing their future. Finally, we must address the clock. We are now less than 60 days away from having no superintendent at the helm of this district. A district of this size cannot drift. Stability starts at the top, and right now our members feel as though they are rowing a ship without a captain in sight of the horizon. We need to know the plan for the transition of leadership. Who will be making the hard calls on July 1st? In closing, what's the plan isn't just a slogan. It's a plea for stability. Our administrators are the backbone of this district. They are ready to do the work, but they cannot lead in the dark. We are again asking this board to provide the clarity, the timeline, and the vision necessary to move us forward. Our students, our staff, and our case members are waiting for an answer. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker from TABCO is Capathia Price Campbell. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you.
You're
Don't start that clock yet. Thank you, Doctor. Thank you, Dr. Rogers, Chair Lichter, and the entire board. Thank you again for your time. As I mentioned a few concerns to you today, my name is Capathia Campbell. I'm a member of the TABCO board, and I serve District 1 on the west side. I'm also a proud library media specialist at Hepville Elementary. First, the issues of my colleagues, the secondary library media specialist. TABCO has reviewed the minutes and the video from the February 24th board member, as well as the vote on the motion. And we believe BCPS has failed to follow your directions to restore all secondary library media specialist positions without requiring them to teach content classes. When asked how to fund Mr. Macmillan's motions, BCPS indicated it would be treated as any other unexpected expenditure. This strongly suggests that you, the board members, knew that you were directing BCPS to reallocate funding, not to merely change the amount requested from the county executive. We call on the board to review this motion and the video to effectuate your will and to restore these positions. Next, the board policy 1250. It has a second read and vote tonight. We applaud you, and we hope this critical initiative regarding federal immigrant enforcement and staff training become policy. It sends a signal to all members of the BCPS community that this board, that you understand the moment that we are living in. We stand for fairness, clarity, and the rule of children, and with the children of both immigrant and mixed status background. History calls on us to stand up and do the right thing now. History has its eyes on you. Tonight, you have the opportunity to do the right thing for children. And I want to say thank you to the Baltimore County Public School Board for your continued support and service to the students and the children, the classroom, and in every library.
Thank you. Our next category is nonprofit community groups, and our speaker is Marietta English. Good evening.
Good evening. Let me bring you some good news.
Yay.
Good evening, Chair Lecter, Dr. Rogers, and members of the school board. I am Marietta English, and I chair the Education Committee and AXO for the NAACP Baltimore County branch. I would like to thank Dr. Rogers and the school board for your continued support of the AXO program. Because of your support, you have helped us develop leaders in the community. Dr. Rogers and the board, I am so proud of our partnership, and we are proud of the accomplishments of Baltimore County Public Schools. I am here to report that we had our competition on April 25th at Newtown High School. Students from Carver, Pikesville, Dundalk, and Woodlawn participated. In the category of poetry written, Lyric Moore from Pikesville won silver, and Elon Bryant won bronze. In the category of painting, Nyla Wallace won gold, Aaron Dixon won silver, and Elon Bryant won bronze, all from Carver. In the category of photography, Kaya Dorr Leach won gold, Aaron Dixon won silver, and Nyla Wallace won bronze, all from Carver. In the category of drawing, Nyla Wallace won gold, Carmen Collins won silver, and Corey Coffey won bronze, all from Carver. If you can see, Carver kind of dominates the categories. In the category of musical instrument, both classical and contemporary, DeMarcus Beal won gold in both categories, and he is a student at Woodlawn. And if you could heard him play that saxophone, he was absolutely amazing. Sculpture gold went to Cyan Blaze from Carver, and the dance contemporary gold went to London Wright, also from Carver. Carver kind of dominates the categories, and we really appreciate the support of the board. We appreciate the support of Dr. Rogers with AXO. Now we're getting ready for the national competition in Chicago. And this year, we intend to bring home gold in every category that we participate. Thank you again for your support, and we'll see you in Chicago. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next category are individual citizens or students, and our first speaker is Ruth DeMio. I apologize if I pronounced your name wrong, and that's virtually. He's not there? Okay. Our next speaker is Jennifer Buckman. Good evening.
Hi.
Hi.
So nice to see you. Good evening. All right, I'm a little nervous again. I was before you earlier this year in November because there was a problem with my pay. So things weren't being taken out. Now, I'm a relatively healthy person. I mean, the occasional extra espresso shot in the morning because I teach elementary school in Baltimore County Public Schools and I need it. But otherwise, fairly healthy. Thank God, because my doctor called me a week and a half ago. I had a doctor's appointment and she said, "Can you please go print out your insurance cards? There seems to be a problem." And I was like, "Sure." And imagine my surprise when I did not have health insurance. And in November, I had called the helpline to say, my son is turning 26. He will be unenrolled from my health insurance. Are there steps I need to take? And they said, absolutely not. Oracle, it's like magic, right? It is not magic. And when I contacted benefits, they let me know there's a glitch in the system. I should not be hearing of a glitch in our system from my medical doctor. I should be hearing from the people in charge of our medical, like our benefits. And apparently I am not the only person in Baltimore County Public Schools to also experience this glitch. And what I would really love is that our communication around issues, especially with Oracle, are more clearly communicated to all the stakeholders, especially people like me. I'm raising my granddaughter, I'm in a new grade level, my husband's self-employed, like I've got a lot, we all do. I don't wanna go read the News Hub on a Friday night and go through all the things to find out that I need to go back into Oracle every single time to make sure that my pay is correct and my benefits are correct. You have spent a lot of money on a program, and what you bought was a car with no tires, no steering wheel, no airbags, and our administrators are spending inordinate amounts of time also administering to this program, time that should be spent with students and teachers and the community members instead of managing a program that you spent, again, a lot of money on. And I think it's just really important that we put a human face on these things. When we're in data meetings around students, we always say it's 2%, 1%, 10%, but we dig deeper. We want to know who those kids are so we can reach them. And I'm just here tonight to say, hey, luckily, I did not have a heart attack or a car accident, and then my husband, who he's a nice man, but his attention is, not the best for things like this, he would have to manage that through a system he is not a part of, and that would be an unfair ask. So please, if we could just clarify some communications around glitches in these systems so people who will be in my position sometime don't go through what I went through, which was really terrifying. Love the benefits, by the way. Thanks for all you do.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Bosch Ferrone. Ms. Buckman, I think. Oh, I thought you were being. Never mind. Good evening.
Good evening. I really appreciate you considering my remarks. I want to follow up on policy 1250. And I ask you, this is plain, I ask you, when you amended the policy from training employees every 3 months or 4 months into once a year, what is the proof that every 3 months was too much? And what is the proof that 1 year is adequate? There is nothing really factual about it. It's basically an opinion. It's basically just intuition that this is better than the other. The second question I ask you dearly to think about. If you approve that policy, which protects illegal aliens against the duly elected federal government, will it improve the outcome of education in BCPS for the majority of students, 75% of students, most students? Will it? I don't think so. I ask you not to approve that policy unless you were told to by someone higher authority to do it, because it teaches students not to respect federal agents. By the way, this policy is anti-ICE. The C in ICE is about customs. Some of my patients are from the Customs Department and actually called me up, says, what's this? We are doing our jobs. Federal agents, whether they are immigration or customs, are doing their jobs. Last but not least, I know we are in a process of choosing a new superintendent. I ask you to appoint the one board member that always think about students and nothing else as an interim superintendent, and that is Mr. McMillion. I have been watching the board for so long. Mr. McMillion is not about politics, it's about students. And that will allow you time to make sure that the next superintendent is the right one. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is, sorry, I lost my place here. Oh, sorry, Claire Jabagi. And I think and you're going to tell me exactly how to pronounce your last name. Jabagi. Okay. I put the hard G sound instead of the soft.
Good evening, Dr. Rogers, Chair Lichter, and esteemed board members. My name is Claire Jabaji, and I'm a junior at George Washington Carver Center. I'm so honored to introduce myself as a student member of the board-elect for the 2026 through 2027 term. I would like to thank the board for this opportunity and Baltimore County Public School students for entrusting me with this role. The campaign season allowed me to meet so many new people and learn so many new skills. I'm so eager to collaborate and learn from fellow board members and follow in the amazing Forsay Ogumbe's footsteps. I hope to work with fellow board members to address student concerns and improve the student experience. I hope after my term, school will be a more positive environment where students view school as something they not just have to attend, but something they get to attend. Thank you very much for your time, and I'm so excited for this opportunity.
And congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you. We do have room for a wait list, so Ms. Serhoff, if you'd like to speak. Good evening.
Good evening. I'm going to raise an issue that I raised at the beginning of the school year, and that is the issue of staying in our own lane. We need to stop staying in our own lane when it comes to special education and general education, because the two of them cannot exist in the same space if we continue to do that. We have special education students in general education classrooms. That is part of IDEA. That is least restrictive environment at its best. And yet we continue to say, I need to stay in my lane. I cannot talk about retention. I cannot talk about grades in an IEP meeting. Yet, when I raise an issue that needs to be addressed on an IEP or a placement, the grades are beautiful. They have straight A's. What's wrong with that? On the one hand, I can't talk about it because it's general education, stay in my lane. On the other hand, that's how you make a decision. There is something radically wrong with that attitude, and we have to fix it before we go any further with saying special education or general education in general are priorities in this district. We are hurting students by saying that student is normal. No, they're not. They have an IEP. They have a disability. That already changes the equation. Let's start crossing that aisle. I've been doing that a lot this school year. I've been doing that a lot in previous school years. I've been doing that for 35 years of experience in special ed. I communicate with people in gen ed on a daily basis because I have to, and because it's good teaching and it's good collaboration. So let's start preaching that in our classroom and having that the basis of our decisions.
Thank you. Next is public comment on Board Policy 3720, Behavior Threat Assessment. And our first speaker is Marietta English. I think, or did her? Maybe not. Okay. Our next speaker, I'm sorry, Ms. Serhoff, but you are the next speaker for behavior threat assessment?
Get my exercise.
Okay. Couple extra steps. Good evening again.
Going along with what I just said, I have a number of students who have behavioral concerns. But their behavioral concerns are not getting addressed because they're referred to as normal. They're referred to as, well, I don't see it, therefore can't possibly have it. Certain disabilities do lend themselves to threat assessment and safety. It is necessary for us to recognize that students with emotional concerns do need threat assessment sometimes. Students with emotional concerns who elope need to be sometimes in a more restrictive environment with less stimulation, because all of a sudden that makes them a threat. We're going to talk about safety, threat assessment, behavior intervention plans. I'm going to pull out an alphabet soup piece from my training. We have to think very clearly about every single disability that a child has on that IEP and make sure that all those disabilities are in the IEP so that we can do a proper threat assessment. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker on policy 3720 is Bash Farone.
Good evening again. Policy 3720, line 23 through 26, talks about supporting the student impacted by a threat. I recommend that you would say something like student, teachers, visitors, public speakers like us that come to you. That same concern also in line 28. In line 30, it uses the physical harm to someone or school property. I suggest that the term someone is too vague. I think it should be identified somehow better. Line 36 talks about dangerous or violent situation. Dangerous means violent, violent means dangerous. It's just two words mean the same thing. I don't think you should be repetitive in that manner. In the second page, line number 6, talking about behavior who may pose threat to safety. I think this is very rubbery term, and I really ask you to seriously consider it. Of course, you know I have been ejected from the board twice, one time for standing up to take a picture of Mr. McMillian. So what is the criteria? You know, if we keep it vague like this, that would allow some persons to abuse it against the civil rights of taxpayers. Then in the second page, line 25, talks about any person who exhibits threatening. Again, any person is vague and can be abused. Line number 30, nothing in this policy shall preclude school system personnel from acting immediately to address imminent danger. Good. But then, if they abuse that power as was applied on me, what do? There is no process to complain. As my practical example, when I complained, nothing really happened about that. I think this part would be too dangerous to keep it the same way. And that is my comment about this policy. Would you like me to stay, or?
Yes, you may stay for policy 4008, board data governance.
Policy 4008 is about data. Line number 8 talks about the obvious that the data are the property of the school system. Of course, it is the property, just like this chair. Then line number 11 talks about the quality of the data. But that's really a vague term, you know. What does it mean, quality of the data? I think it needs to be identified better. Line number 15 talks about support equitable access to accurate and timely data. Now, I used to be a parent, not anymore, but I am a taxpayer. I am not less worthy of knowing the information, the data. Whenever I ask for something, I don't get an answer. I asked for curriculum so many times, I didn't get any answer. I asked about methods of calculating the progress that the superintendent has shown us multiple times, and I haven't really gotten any answer. Then line number 20, 33, 34 talks about data integrity. Data integrity, which is really a broad term, if you want to have data integrity, then you need to allow a robust discussion. And I noticed that board members are limited in minutes to the time they use to ask questions or make comments. Example of that in real life, the budget. The budget, basically the discussion was really brief, rushed, move forward, approve it, and later on, you know, it wasn't really a good budget. So in order to have data integrity, the board needs to be focused on allowing robust discussion in the board and not be the way you are right now, where you are limiting board members from speaking up. And another real example, you know, Ms. Demonowski was ill-treated because she was asking too many questions, etc., and that has been turned down by the Maryland Board of Education. So I ask you to think about that, and hopefully you will.
Thank you. And Dr. Freund, you can comment on policy 6202, technology acceptable use policy for students.
Technology is my love matter for all the years. I like that. Line number 16 talks about curriculum access by students, which means probably parents will have that access too, right? So if the student has whatever passwords, you know, the parents would be aware of it. But people like myself, no matter how much I ask for access for the curriculum, I get ignored. And since day one I came to Baltimore, 52 years ago, I have been paying taxes to the school system, and I don't get answers. So when I see this thing, I say all taxpayers must have access to the curriculum or any other data that the system has. If you have a technology of some sort, it needs to be available for taxpayers. Line number 32 talks about responsibility of students. I like that. But you cannot really hold a student that is 9 years old, 12 years old with hormones raging to be responsible. I recommend for you to add parents, guardians. Parents needs to be co-responsible in that because they are the ones who are aware and who are watching what the students are doing. And the same thing for line number 36. I think parents and guardians should be held accountable. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker for policy 6202, technology acceptable use policy for students, is Sharon Serhoff.
When we talk about acceptable use, we have to model it and we have to enforce it. If it's on an IEP that a student doesn't get to be on their computer for a certain amount of time, or that it is a reward as opposed to they're allowed to use it whenever they want, we need to practice what we preach. We need to make sure there is a balance because there are students who are going to need to use a computer to write, to read. We practice on a daily basis. The only way that students communicate with their teachers, and sometimes the only way that teachers communicate with parents, if they communicate with parents, oh, it's on Schoology. Schoology is a wonderful tool if it works. I've never seen it work well. If you're going to have a policy, it has to include students, parents, teachers, administration. I should not walk into a school building and know that my student is not allowed to have their phone or their computer, but the teacher's over in the corner there with the cell phone in the hand. And that's happened very frequently recently. We have to have a balance. We can't rely completely on computers to teach. It's a tool, not a replacement for our wonderful teachers. And we have to use it correctly. There is such a thing as email. There's also such a thing as a telephone. My favorite word this year is crickets, because I hear a lot of crickets when I call the Office of Special Ed. I shouldn't hear crickets. We have tools, we should use them properly, and our policy should reflect that.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the superintendent's report, and for that I call on Dr. Rogers.
Thank you, Chair Lichter, members of the board. I have a video that the team will play. This video is focused on our students, the 108,000 students in BCPS. I received some help from our student member of the board, Forsyth Agumbe, as well as our Maryland Association of Student Councils and Baltimore County Student Councils member, Jordan Salked. So, Ms. Gover, please play.
Team BCPS students are at the center of all that we do as a system. BCPS is deeply committed to ensuring that every student, regardless of background or circumstance, has access to the resources they need to thrive. With every decision we make, we want to ensure we unlock students' potential and create pathways to success. And as we build an innovative and collaborative learning community where all students excel and reach their highest potential, we recognize and celebrate the incredible talent and diversity of our students who make Team BCPS great.
Team BCPS students are so special because they take pride in their community. They put in the effort to learn about the individual identities of the people that they're surrounded by. Your friends, family, mentors, and peers have seen how hard you've worked this entire year, and we appreciate you. Take pride in how far you've come.
Team BCPS students truly represent a diverse community, whether it be diverse ideas, diverse cultures. Every student has the opportunity to learn from one another and hear different perspectives every day they enter school. Students are pivotal in moving our school system forward. Team BCPS students are inspiring.
Students, you are Team BCPS. You are the absolute reason why we exist. We made a commitment to you, and I am so proud that we have worked over the last several years to honor that commitment to each and every single one of you. Please know that every single one of you is important. You matter. We are all dedicated to your success. I absolutely wish you the best, and I congratulate you on all the wonderful things that you have done already as a student in BCPS and all of the great things that you will continue to do in the future. I wish you my very best.
Okay, thank you for that. Next is Chair's Report, and May marks the season of celebration at BCPS. In just a few weeks, our seniors will cross the stage to receive their high school diplomas and embark on new journeys. Whether heading into the workforce, starting a career, joining the military, or attending college, we extend heartfelt congratulations to each of them and their families. Our annual Champions for Children's event kicked off our celebrations last week. We appreciate the Department of Communications for planning and producing such a wonderful event. It's always special and important to recognize our teachers, school-based leaders, and central office leaders and staff who make a positive impact each day. Today, BCPS received national recognition for its commitment to music education for the 21st consecutive year. Special thanks are extended to Sonia Sinkowski, coordinator in the BCPS Office of Integrated Arts, for her and her staff's dedication to music education. Throughout the year, numerous opportunities are available to observe the exceptional talents of our students. Whether performing vocally or instrumentally, their music reflects high-quality instruction, dedicated practice, and the support of students and families. I encourage everyone to attend these performances and experience our students' achievements firsthand. Congratulations are also extended to our newest upcoming student member of the board, Claire Jubaji, a junior at George Washington Carver Center for the Arts and Technology, who has been elected by her peers as a student member of the Board of Education of Baltimore County for the 2026-2027 school year. She already possesses an impressive academic record, having served in several national honor societies. She's also a committed dancer and currently teaches within her dance company. The Board of Ed looks forward to your service and your representation of our 110,000 students. Congratulations to all. Also, the superintendent's search process is taking place. At the last Board of Ed meeting, we approved the contract for Ray & Associates as the search firm to guide the process. We are now working with our search consultant. Our website will be updated shortly to reflect the process. And next on the agenda is our current student member of the board, Ms. Ungambe.
Good evening, Chair Lichter, Superintendent Rogers, members of the board, staff, families, and the BCPS community. Over the past few weeks, I've continued working closely with the Baltimore County Student Councils as we begin to close out the school year and transition into new leadership. We recently held our final BCSC Executive Board meeting, marking the conclusion of the year. It was a moment to reflect on everything that has been accomplished this year, from student-led initiatives to meaningful conversations that have shaped our schools. I am especially looking forward to our upcoming transition, where we will officially swear in our new officers and take time to recognize and celebrate our seniors who have dedicated so much time to student leadership across the county. At the state level, the Maryland Association of Student Councils will be hosting its May Executive Board meeting on May 16th at our very own Eastern Tech High School. During this meeting, MASC will swear in its new executive board and officer team for the upcoming year. I am especially proud to share that Baltimore County's own Goodness Alafe has been elected as the MASC president for the 26 to 27 school year. This achievement reflects not only individual excellence, but also the strength of student leadership that continues to come out of BCPS. I am also excited to announce that BCPS students have elected Claire Jabaji, a junior from Carver Center, as our 46th student member of the board. Both candidates demonstrated strong leadership and a commitment to representing their peers throughout the campaign process, and I look forward to seeing them continue in their individual leadership journeys and to watch all the amazing things that Claire will accomplish during her term. As we move forward into this final stretch of the school year, I want to take a moment to recognize all of our students preparing for AP exams and final assessments. This is often one of the most demanding times of the year, and it's important to stay focused while also taking care of your well-being. Trust in the work you've put in, give yourself grace, and remember that growth and effort are just as important as any final result. And to our seniors, as graduation approaches, this is a time filled with both excitement and reflection. You are closing an important chapter and stepping into new opportunities, whether that's college, careers, or other paths. Take pride in everything you've accomplished and the resilience you've shown along the way. More importantly, recognize the impact you've had on your schools and your communities. While your time in BCPS is coming to an end, the lessons, relationships, and memories you carry forward will continue to shape your future. Lastly, I want to be very clear that any language referring to BCPS students as unhuman or alien is deeply harmful. This board is committed to creating a safe, inclusive, and respectful environment for every student in Baltimore County Public Schools. Our students are not defined by labels meant to dehumanize them. They're valued members of our community who deserve dignity, support, and protection. While I respect the right to free expression, that does not excuse rhetoric that targets, marginalizes, or harms our students. We expect all members of our community to engage in discourse that reflects our shared responsibility to uplift and protect young people. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next item on the agenda is unfinished business, consideration of the annual budget appropriation transfer and the supplemental appropriation. And for that, I call on Dr. Grimm and Mr. Tantliff. Good evening.
Good evening, Chair
Good evening.
Lichter, Superintendent Dr. Rogers, members of the board. I think we have a few slides for you this evening. As those are being brought up, last board meeting, we brought forth for you a budget appropriation transfer. Just as a reminder, this is an administrative function and is requested every year, while the supplemental appropriation is needed when additional funds are required to complete the year.
Next slide. There was some conversation last time asking for some clarification on instructional salaries and wages. In particular, we were talking about the Kelly Services contract. But you can see in Activity 3, instructional salaries and wages, it's true compensation paid directly to personnel. It's teachers, teaching assistants, tutors, reading specialists, stipends, psychologists. It's really just about everyone in the classroom. That's what falls under Activity 3, and that got a lot of conversation at our last meeting. Next slide. Activity 5, and this is where the Kelly Services contract resides. It's all other expenditures for instruction that are not included in instructional salaries and instructional supplies. Includes miscellaneous contracted services, equipment rentals, software license fees, technology leases, mileage reimbursement, and a host of other things. Next slide. So we attempted to do what the board had requested of us last meeting. And in the next two slides, and I think you have one slide inserted into your packages. We basically tried to reduce the amount of money funding the post-adoption compensation increases with the supplemental. So if you recall, last time we had shown you that all the money that was to support the compensation increases was spread amongst all of the different bargaining units. And there was some pushback on that, and the request was to try to cancel them out, and if there was positive money available under the BAT, use that for the compensation increases, and then what was remaining would be supported by the supplemental. So on this chart here, you know, it's small up there, but I think you all have it. You can see what the change was in each category, and there's some comments. But some of the key things that we did, and I think I mentioned, change the BAT categories to absorb as much of the post-budget adoption impasse agreement compensation increases as possible, minimize the use of instructional salaries wherever possible, and change the supplement to support minimum amount of compensation increases, with the result being most of the supplement is now paying for the ERP project and special ed. But on the next slide, you'll see the result of all this. So on the top, you can see what you were presented with last time. On the bottom is what you have now. And you can see the total dollars are the same in the BAT, and the total dollars of the supplement are the same total. They had to be, but we shifted the dollars around between the categories. I just mentioned these things, but the BAT is covering as much as the compensation as possible. Supplement was not used for the salary enhancements. But the key is the BAT plus the supplemental are exactly the same. We just shifted which activities were funded by which. And if you look at the top chart and the bottom chart under total, it's exactly the same. So you can see that. So the activities that were funded by each of the documents shifted in accordance with the board's wishes from our last meeting, but the end result is the same. The total, when you add up the BAT plus a supplement for each activity, it's the same, and then the aggregate adjusted budget, which is the adopted budget plus a supplement plus the BAT, is the same. So we think we did what the board had requested of us, and that's the last slide in our presentation, if there's no questions. Thank you.
Thank you. May I have a motion to approve the annual budget appropriation transfer as presented?
So move, Young.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second, Stolowski.
Any discussion? Ms. Domanowski?
So I noticed that when we, for transportation costs, as far as BCPS field trip versus private bus operations, that we take the money from the BCPS field trips and then put it into private operations, bus operations. Why is that something that we have to do for accounting reasons? What's the reasoning for that?
Is your question, why do we use a private operator to take the kids on a field trip?
Well, it's in the millions of dollars. I'm just wondering, is that what it's for, or?
I'm not, what are you looking at, Ms. Domanowski?
Okay, I may find it.
But field trips in general are split between contractors, and we use our buses whenever possible because it's less expensive. But because of covering all the routes, often we have to use contractors for field trips.
And it's important to note that the schools collect the funds for the field trips. They are then transferred over to transportation and the contractors.
Okay, so that was my main thing. So I actually, it was kind of, there was more money spent in private bus operations than there was taken out of the BCPS field trip fund. That's what I'm.
Are you referring to the BAT, or is this a different?
The budget line transfers that you gave to us, and in reference for the third quarter.
Okay, I'm not looking at that report right now. But
I know, but it's in this, so I just wonder if we could talk about it since it was presented as part of this agenda item.
Can you say your question again, please?
Okay.
What exactly would you like?
I would
me
like to
respond
understand so a BCPS field trip dollars, then it gets transferred over to private bus dollars, is what I'm assuming. Correct?
Yes, when we use a private contractor.
So why would I'm just wondering where the difference comes through. Is that part of the additional transportation costs that you needed to fund that? Because the private bus was over, like, it didn't equal out. That's what I'm saying. It was more than what the BCPS field trip money was. So I don't, what else does the private bus operations fund, like, pay for?
The majority of private bus operators who spend more than, in excess of $20 million, they support a large number of our routes where we don't use our in-house bus. Just in general, that's the majority of what our contract bus costs are for.
I'll come back. Thank you.
Other questions? Ms. Stolowski?
Thank you. I just have a question about the expenditure appropriation, which was on the budget website. When we voted in February, and the motion was being discussed to relieve library media specialists of the 2-period content teaching duties, the question was asked, you know, if the motion passes, what will happen? And the answer indicated that it would have to be figured out, money would have to be.
Ms. Stolowski, is this about the BAT? Is this about the BAT or the supplement?
Well, yes, because it is about the ask for the additional funding.
Okay.
Well, that's FY27. We're only dealing with FY26 right here.
Okay. Thank you. I'll reserve my question. Thank you.
Thank you.
Further questions about the BAT or supplemental proposals? Ms. Frimpong?
Thank you. So in the documentation that we have, it talks about the $5.5 million for the continued implementation of the ERP system. So looking through the document that was linked, I see where in the budget for software license fees, while fees were reduced by almost $200,000, then it gets transferred because we hired a contracted employee. Or another instance, we have a reduction of $200K for fees, but then there's cost associated with a phishing email, and it's a cost of $200,000, and that's from December 2025 to now. So what is that cost of $200,000 for?
I apologize. I don't have that report in front of me, and I don't, I would have to look at that. But those are transactions that offices or schools submitted throughout the year. They were all budget neutral, but they just moved their dollars to where they needed to spend them. So every transaction on that report, and there's many, many transactions on that report that go on throughout the year, those offices had just an expenditure that needed to be spent in a different place. They didn't spend any additional money, but they just had to move their money so they could properly spend it in the place that they determined once the year had started, which, again, is significantly past when they put their budgets together, which is in October, November. The year starts in July. Now you're a year later, and a lot of needs change as the year goes on.
Yeah, thank you. And that makes sense. But yeah, I guess for this particular instance, because it specifically speaks to a phishing email. So between December 2025 and now, which is May 5th, but I think your report ends earlier, there's $200,000 being spent on that. So that's a large sum of money. I was just inquiring about that.
Ms. Frimpong, if I may, I've asked Mr. Corns to come forward so he can provide some clarification on phishing email.
Thank you, Dr. Rogers. Ms. Frimpong, that is for not a phishing email, but a service we use to send out test emails to staff to do phishing training. So there was no incident that involved a phishing email. It was more of a software that we procured in order to do compliance training with our staff, as well as phishing tests. So you get an email from us that you click on the link and it takes you to a training video on maybe you shouldn't have clicked that link to keep us safe. And so we had money that was in a non-software area, and we needed to move it over to our security team in their software area to procure that service.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification, because it sounded like it was just an email and there was this issue versus,
No,
training
ma'am, no issue. This was designed to prevent us from having a malicious
having
emails impact our staff.
Perfect, thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
And then, so in our most recent budget with ERP, we had a newly created department that's costing us $4 million. So is this $5.5 million for ERP, is this on top of what we've already budgeted, or this is considered to be part of the money we already allotted for ERP?
The 5.5 million in this case was in addition to what we had budgeted. There was a couple $1 million where our vendor changed and was acquired by IBM, and so those purchase orders had to be closed out, so it was budgeted the prior year and moved to this year. And the rest of it was really just addressing different needs that arose as we went on and learned more about the project. There's different supports we needed, different personnel we needed to hire. So it was about half the dollars that needed to move from last year just through the name change of the vendor, and then the rest was just needs that arose once the year began.
Okay, so where are we with, like, what's been budgeted versus the actual amount then for ERP? And I guess that's something you guys can get back to if you don't have that information, but I do think we need an update on that, because we keep getting information about didn't account for this and we have to adjust. So we'd just like to have a better understanding of where we are with the ERP, with how much we are actually spending. So thank you.
Thank you. Other questions? Ms. Hen?
Thank you, and thank you, Ms. Frempong, for your questions on ERP. I do have one follow-up to that. I don't recall, and perhaps Mr. Tantler, if you have the information in front of you, from last year's BAT and supplement, that there was an underspending on ERP that would reference what you had mentioned from the prior year's invoicing and the vendor change that you had just mentioned, that would explain the over budget that we're seeing now requiring the supplemental of 5.5 million. Is that something that is reflected in last year's BAT, that there was a transfer of funds that had been budgeted for ERP for last year that were transferred to another budget category?
I guess I would say it two ways. So last year we did need a supplement for the ERP project because it wasn't in the budget at all in FY25. So during the supplement last year and the year before that, the board approved funding for the ERP project. So I guess if we had known about the name change at the time that it was occurring, we could have requested $2 million less last year, needing the $2 million more this year. In the end, it's the same amount of money, and anything unspent, that $2 million dropped to fund balance once the purchase order closed.
Okay. I don't seem to recall that we had no budgeted amount for ERP last year.
It was funded through the supplemental. And I'd remind the board, we didn't actually need the supplemental for the ERP project this year. We were able to absorb it within the activity. You're seeing it now funded by the supplemental because of how the board requested us to move the dollars between the BAT and the supplemental. The supplemental was needed to fund the post-adoption compensation changes, things that got agreed to after impasse. You had asked us to move the dollars around to look a little different, but we would have been able to absorb the increased costs from the ERP project. And it was in the BAT last time instead of the supplemental. But I just point out we didn't need to request extra money for the ERP project this year. We're able to absorb it within our existing budget, but more than the original ERP budget, which was $7 million this year.
Then I would join in Ms. Frempong's request for a full accounting of ERP expenditures to date. I think we need a clearer picture of what that looks like, and I know that internal audit, when they present their work plan tonight, that may be a question I ask about that, because I know that's part of their work plan for the coming year.
Sure.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Okay, may I have a roll call vote? We are voting on the BAT because we're separating these two. So we're voting on motion to approve the annual BAT appropriation transfer as presented.
Ms. Dominowski?
Yes.
Ms. Hen?
Yes.
Ms. Frempong?
Yes.
Ms. Ogumbe?
Yes.
Ms. Stelasky?
Yes.
Dr. Savoy?
Yes.
Mr. McMillian?
Yes.
Ms. Pumphrey?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Ms. Lichter?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. So the BAT is approved. May I have a motion to approve the annual supplemental budget appropriation as presented?
So moved, Dominowski.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second from Pong.
Thank you. Any discussion on the supplemental budget appropriation as presented? May I have a roll call vote, please?
Ms. Dominowski?
Yes.
Ms. Hen?
Yes.
Ms. Frempong?
Yes.
Ms. Ogumbe?
Yes.
Ms. Stelasky?
Yes.
Dr. Savoy?
Yes.
Mr. McMillian?
Yes.
Ms. Pumphrey?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Ms. Lichter?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you both.
Thank you.
Ms. Frempong?
So with this passing, are we still meeting our for it being submitted to the county?
Yes, we are meeting the timeline, correct? They let them
Yes,
know we
that's
were going to
correct.
vote tonight.
Okay, great.
Okay. The next item on the agenda is unfinished business board policies. This is the second reader for this policy, and for that I call Ms. Christina Pumphrey, Chair of the Policy Review Committee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Members of the board, the Policy Review Committee asks that the board accept the committee's recommendation to adopt Board Policy 1250, Immigration Enforcement Access to School Buildings. This policy is presented to you on tonight's agenda as Exhibit K.
Thank you, Ms. Pumphrey. May I have a motion to accept the recommendation of the Board's Policy Review Committee to adopt Board Policy 1250?
So moved from Pong.
Okay. No second is needed since the recommendation comes from the committee. Is there any discussion? Ms. Pumphrey?
Just have a comment.
Yes.
I will not be able to state this any better than our student or the member of the board already stated, but I just feel inclined to state that referring to any of our children as illegal immigrants is appalling. And it's the exact reason why we need a policy like this, so that our students feel welcome, all of our students feel welcome in our school. How we decide as adults to address immigration outside of our school system is a different issue. We're talking about children here, and I'm just appalled by those comments, and I felt the need to state that during this presentation of the policy. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Pumphrey, for your statement. Is there any further discussion? Ms. Dominowski?
I just wanted to reiterate, this is not interfering with actual federal laws or policy on the books, correct?
The legal team reviewed, our legal office reviewed this to make sure there was no as a matter of fact, it's making sure that we are in line with federal law as far as needing to have a signed judicial warrant to access a school building and not just an executive warrant. That is federal law, and this is part of the training that our staff members, especially front office staff, will have when agents approach the school.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? May I have a roll call vote, please?
Ms. Dominowski?
Yes.
Ms. Hen?
Yes.
Ms. Frempong?
Yes.
Ms. Ogumbe?
Yes.
Ms. Stelasky?
Yes.
Dr. Savoy?
Yes.
Mr. McMillian?
Yes.
Ms. Pumphrey?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Ms. Lichter?
Yes.
Thank you.
Policy 1250 is approved. Thank you, everyone who worked on that, and thank you, Ms. Pumphrey, for your leadership as the chair of that committee. The next item on the agenda is action taken in closed session. During the administrative function session, the board voted and approved to establish a standing budget and finance committee. May I have a motion to affirm the action taken in administrative function session?
So moved, Ms. Hen?
May I have a second?
Second, Stelasky.
Thank you both. May I have a roll call vote, please?
Ms. Dominowski?
Yes.
Ms. Hen?
Yes.
Ms. Frempong?
Yes.
Ms. Ogumbe? Ms. Stelasky?
Yes.
Dr. Savoy?
Yes.
Mr. McMillian?
Yes.
Ms. Pumphrey?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Ms. Lichter?
Yes.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is new business board policies. This is the first reader for these policies, and for that, I call again on Ms. Christina Pumphrey.
Thank you. Members of the board, the Policy Review Committee asks that the board accept the committee's recommendation of the proposed changes to the following board policies. Board Policy 3720, Behavior Threat Assessment, Board Policy 4008, Board Data Governance, and Board Policy 6202,
technology acceptable use policy for students. These policies are presented to you on tonight's agenda as Exhibits M1 through M3.
Thank you, Ms. Pumphrey. Board members, are there any separations being requested? May I have a motion to accept the recommendations of the Board Policy Review Committee for Board Policies 3720, 4008, and 6202?
So moved, Stoleski.
Thank you. No second is needed since the recommendation comes from the committee. Is there any discussion? Ms. Dominowski.
I'm sorry if this is off topic, but it has to do with digital content and what we're doing as far as when it comes to the assessments that we're giving our students. What kind of access do we give parents to be able to know what like those tests are like, or being able to go over the scores? And because when you get it back, you just get the grade, but we don't actually get to see what our students are writing and putting in there. It gets saved into a classified or protected document. How can we?
But Ms. Dominowski, is this about one of the three
Well, it's about
policies?
the way we're using our digital resources as far as digital curriculums and
So are you
technology.
requesting that the Policy Review Committee take a look at policies relevant?
Well, is that in there as far as is that part of our policy to protect that from?
It's not part of one of these three policies that we're voting on tonight.
Okay, let me rephrase that. Are we? How are we making this available? How can we make this available to students with this policy, I guess? Or why aren't we putting that into policy? Why are those assessments protected and not given to parents?
Ms. Pumphrey.
I'm not sure that what you're asking is appropriate for this particular policy. However, if you want to send me that request, we can, as a policy, review that to see what policies are available, or if we want to discuss whether we need a policy addressing that matter.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. Ms. Henn.
I agree with Ms. Pumphrey's comment and was going to comment that 4008 doesn't include parent access to data, but was going to make the same recommendation that a motion be made to ask the Policy Review Committee to explore whether or not a policy should be created specifically for parent access to data.
Yes, I'll add that to minutes as well. Thank you.
So the motion on the floor is to accept the recommendation. No, it's okay, for the three policies, 3720, 4008, and 6202. We had a second. Any further discussion? Okay, may I have a roll call vote on approving those three on accepting the recommendations of those three policies?
Ms. Dominowski?
Yes.
Ms. Henn?
Yes.
Ms. Frempong?
Yes.
Ms. Ogumbe?
Yes.
Ms. Stoleski?
Yes.
Dr. Savoy?
Yes.
Mr. McMillion?
Yes.
Ms. Pumphrey?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
And Ms. Lichter?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is new business, consideration of the internal audit work plan for fiscal year 2027. And for that, I call Mr. Young, Chair of the Audit Committee.
Members of the board's audit committee met on Tuesday, April 14, 2026. The Office of Internal Audit work plan for FY 2027 is being forwarded to the full board for approval. The plan provides a high-level overview of the audit areas, focus, objectives, and proposed timeline. Ms. Barr is available if there are any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Young. Do I have a motion to approve the Office of Internal Audit work plan for fiscal year 2027?
So moved, Frempong.
Thank you. No second is needed since the recommendation comes from the committee. Is there any discussion? Ms. Dominowski.
I was just wondering if Ms. Barr would want to come up and talk about the ERP audit plan.
Good evening, Ms. Barr.
Good evening. Did you have a specific question, Ms. Dominowski?
Can you just do an overview of what that will entail, or what the plan is as far as how we're going to?
Yeah, basically what we do is we would look at the controls, data migration, making sure that the users have the appropriate access to the system, and making sure that the third-party vendors have the audits that are required. So that's basically a very high-level look at the implementation and the data migration coming over from the prior system into the new.
So there isn't any plan to go through the cost balance scenario, like as far as, are we getting what we're paying for or budgeting for, or it's just, as far as we've been going back and forth and saying we needed more money here, or maybe we didn't need that money then. Is there any plan to audit or look into that portion of it, the cost portion of it?
I'm sorry, that was not planned for FY27.
Is there any way we can talk about adding that, or is that not going to once? Are we only?
That would be a different type of an audit. I mean, there's always room and opportunity to have a discussion. That's why we do a risk-based audit plan, because if other types of risks are identified or emerging, then we can adjust what's planned. And of course, I would have to bring that back to the committee, and the committee would then have to consider it and approve that and move it forward.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Barr.
Welcome.
Other discussion? Ms. Henn?
Thank you. Good evening, Ms. Barr.
Good evening.
Were the risks analyzed for the ERP in the areas of financial risks related to expenditures and also related to performance in terms of employee impact and the performance of the system when developing your work plan?
Yes. So the financial risks, no. But for the second part of your question, yes. And actually, we're looking there are two projects for the FY27 work plan related to payroll and payroll operations. And so we're now getting deeper into how the actual system is working. And because payroll is such a high percentage and large part of the budget, we're focusing and concentrating on there.
So would you say, is it accurate to say that those audit activities would cover the system performance itself of Oracle in those?
Related to the payroll process and payment to individuals. Yes, so it's operations, it's looking at approval, those types of processes. So we're looking at also the miscellaneous pays, which is a little bit different because some of those processes are still manual. So it's a different lens or view and different type of documentation that we'd have to review related to that. So it's two different payroll audits that we're scheduled for, if approved, for next year.
And is it strictly payroll, or does that include benefits as well?
We do have a benefits, we're looking at benefits as well. That's another project that's planned as well.
Okay, so let me ask my question a different way. If there were control issues or system issues related to either payroll or benefits, would the work that you have planned uncover those types of issues as potential findings if they were reported? Yes, they would. And it includes, so they're IT or technical enough in nature to uncover any types of performance issues with the system itself?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And we're actually working on a project now that the committee will be getting audit results soon related to that.
Okay. So I just have one follow-up, Madam Chair, on the financial, and that is we discussed the BAT and the supplemental this evening, and I believe it was $80 million in ERP costs. So I'm curious as to, with that large of an expenditure, even given our budget overall, why or how that risk would have been assessed given the magnitude of that annual expenditure of the ERP system related to our other single expenditures based on the financial piece, but also the significant system resources, human resources that are involved in its implementation.
Yes, so actually, I brought the risk assessment for that particular department. It wasn't of the ERP system itself, but what we looked for in the IT department were several key processes. So they were IT governance and strategic planning, cybersecurity and data protection, student data privacy and compliance, network and infrastructure management, application systems and integration, user access and identity management, the IT help desk operations, and device management. So those were the key processes. Oh, and two more, I'm sorry. Vendor contract and asset management and business continuity and disaster recovery. So those were the key processes that we identified and the key process examples. And then what we did is we looked at the likelihood of things that would occur and the impact also, and they were assigned, excuse me, they were assigned a score, and then a final inherent risk was calculated, if you will. And then the two areas that came up as the highest were the ones that were included in the work plan. And then, of course, we developed the long-range plan, you know, a 3-year long-range plan that we include the other processes in. And as things emerge, like I said, throughout the school year, fiscal year, we can adjust the current year plan and move things from the long-range plan, or even if it's not on the long-range plan and it's something that we should look into, then we can adjust with the committee's approval.
Okay, thank you. And my final question, do you have a breakdown of hours by project that the board can be provided? I think that's usually provided to the audit committee, but that would be helpful to see you provide the total 10,500 and some hours overall, but is that broken out by project to see the breakdown of how your team's work is those hours are allocated by project? I'm curious to see, investigating fraud, waste, and abuse complaints, the ERP project, and so on.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a breakdown, rough breakdown, of course?
We have actual hours. We gave a rough estimate, excuse me, at the beginning to budget the hours for a project. Sometimes we're under, sometimes we're over, but we do track the actual time spent on a project. We have not communicated that information to the committee recently. Many years ago, we used to provide that information to the audit committee, but it would be easy to do.
Okay. Madam Chair,
Thank you.
I'd like to receive that information. Would that require a motion to receive that? Or are you willing to facilitate that for the
Mr.
full
Young?
board to receive?
I will work, I'll work with Ms. Barr to facilitate that.
Okay, thank you.
I mean, if you'd like to make the motion, you can, but you looked
I-
hesitant when he.
I would. I move that the full board receive the breakdown of internal audit hours by project listed in the Office of Internal Audit FY27 work plan.
Is there a second to Ms. Hen's motion?
Second, Dominowski.
Any discussion? Ms. Hen, would you like to speak to the motion?
I believe I have. I would like to see where the resources are aligned according to the plan. It's information that I used to serve on the audit committee many years ago, and we received it, and it's helpful to see where the priorities are and where the resources are allocated. It's also a useful justification as we look at limited resources overall with staffing to say this is the time commitment or the resources needed to complete these projects. And it's helpful justification for us as we develop our budget to say this is what it takes to do this type of work. So I think it's useful to have that information in addition as quantifiable data in addition to the work plan itself.
So you're not talking about projected, you're talking about after it's done, the actuals?
No, I'm talking about projected, and I'm not looking for exacts, but Ms. Barr has provided that in the past, and it's been very helpful to see
What
the
they
activities of her
anticipate.
team and the anticipated hours and what's required. And should she require additional resources, it's also a justification that she can come to us and say, we need this additional staffing because these activities require more resources. It's having that quantifiable data is useful in our decision-making.
Is there any further discussion on Ms. Hen's motion? Mr. Young?
Can we have Ms. Hen repeat the motion
Mm-hmm.
or
Sure.
type it in chat?
Of course, I'll do both. I move that the board receive a breakdown of Office of Internal Audit hours by project listed in the FY27 work plan. And I'll put that in the chat.
Mr. Young, did you have another question? No. Okay. Okay. Further discussion? Ms. Frempong?
Ms. Barr, how much variance do you find that you typically have? So if you do that projection, I heard you say that you do track the actual. Have you actually looked at, is there a large variance, or are you guys typically kind of on target?
Yeah, it really depends on the project and if there's any type of difficulties or delays, trying to get the information, trying to get the documentation, whether there's an illness on the part of the auditee or the auditor, sometimes it extends the amount of time that's spent on the project. But in general, we're pretty much on the, in the ballpark. There are some that have gone over that I get concerned about, that we spend a lot of time on, and we have to take that step back and make sure that we're applying our resources appropriately. But pretty much we're pretty much in the ballpark. There are some outliers one way or the other, but
Okay, thank you.
and sometimes the scope has to get adjusted because if we go in and do some preliminary work, sometimes we'll find out maybe we have to defer the project, so we only spend maybe 10 hours on it, and then sometimes we have to increase the scope on projects, which would then take it the other way and really increase the number of hours spent, which would be over budget then.
Thank you.
Yes. Now, investigations, we have a general pot of hours, but we don't have, we don't budget by project because we don't know what we're getting in, allegation-wise.
So I think I may be out of order here because we had the motion to approve the work plan, and then we have Ms. Hens. So can I stick to approving voting on Ms. Hens, or do I need to go back to the audit work plan?
Was Ms. Darren Burns, Board Counsel for the record, was Ms. Hens' motion intended to modify the primary motion?
No.
You should pause and dispose of the primary motion.
Finish, when you say depose,
The primary,
dispose.
yes.
Okay.
Dispose of it.
Okay. So may I have a roll call vote
I had further discussion.
on Ms. Hens or on the original? Okay, go ahead, Ms. Pumphrey.
It's unrelated to Ms. Hens.
Okay.
And I don't think anybody's asked this yet. Under special education student placements, would that include evaluating or identification of students as far as whether or not they need special education services? Or is this only for students who have already been identified as needing those services?
It would be for those students that have already been identified as needing the services.
Okay, and would it be appropriate to place those things together, or is that a separate issue that it wouldn't be appropriate to add to this topic?
What are you saying to add to it?
So my question was whether, number 8, special education student placements also included evaluating the system's identification of students who may need special education services who aren't already receiving those services. And the answer, I think, was no.
Yeah, correct. You're correct.
So my second follow-up question would be, would that be something to combine with this, or should that be a separate topic completely if we wanted to have a review of that?
I think it should be a separate topic completely because of the amount of time that would be required to do that. And the focus would be different.
Okay. I'll go back to that in a second. My second question is regarding the school safety, bullying, harassment, or intimidation. Does that include evaluating our process as far as when students are filling out the reporting and harassment forms and how they are followed up on, and our process for whether that's successful, our process is successful, excuse me. Would that be included under this?
Correct. That we'd be evaluating the process. And this project was asked to be deferred because they were updating the process, and it didn't make sense at that time when we originally wanted to look at it, to do it at that time. So now the process has been updated, and we'll be evaluating the effectiveness of that process.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to make a motion to amend. I think this is appropriate. If not, somebody can let me know. And then to discuss before we vote on it, because I want to make sure I'm in line here. So I want to add an item to evaluate our identification of students needing special education services.
Can you repeat that, Ms. Pumphrey?
Let me, hold on, sorry, my mouse isn't working. A motion to amend the general scope of work, or the work plan, excuse me, to add an audit area for evaluating our identification of students needing special education services.
May I ask clarification? You're talking about the process to identify students?
Yeah, so I add that word process, please. Motion to evaluate our process for identification of students needing special education services.
Is there a second to Ms. Pumphrey's amended motion?
Second, Stileski.
Okay. Now, discussion. I'm not sure I understand, Ms. Pumphrey, what you're trying to find out if the process, even for kids who weren't identified, if the process was working.
Yeah, so that's why my first question was about number 8 specifically, if that included students who weren't already identified. I think we are hearing a lot of from the public and issues as far as students who aren't already identified, that they're not being identified properly. So I just think that we need a review of our process to make sure that students and parents who, say their students should be identified and they're not, we should audit that process, I think, to make sure that it's successful.
Right, and it's two different, it is two different things, yeah.
And you might not know the answer, but I know that MSDE does extensive auditing of special education. Is that what Ms. Pumphrey's asking? Is that already part of an audit that currently is being done? I know you're not going to know that, right?
I really know the answer
Okay.
to your question, but
Okay.
I don't believe so.
Okay. A further discussion on Ms. Pumphrey's amended motion. Okay, may I have a roll call vote on the amended motion? Can you reread it, Ms. Gover?
To amend the work plan to add an audit area to evaluate the process for identifying students needing special education services.
Okay, roll call vote, please.
Ms. Dominowski?
Yes.
Ms. Henn?
Yes.
Ms. Frempong?
Yes.
Ms. Ogumbe?
Yes.
Ms. Stileski?
Yes.
Dr. Savoy?
Yes.
Mr. McMillian?
Yes.
Ms. Pumphrey?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Ms. Lichter?
Yes. Okay. All right, now we're back to Ms. Henn's. No. Now the motion as amended.
Yep.
Okay.
Primary.
Madam Chair,
Okay. Yes, Ms. Henn?
I'd like to withdraw my motion and make a new motion to
Okay, wait,
amend the
let us
work
make it
plan.
finish oh, you're still, okay, go ahead.
I'd like to withdraw the motion I made
Okay,
and move to amend the work plan
go ahead.
by adding the hours for each project in the work plan.
Is there a second to Ms. Henn's?
You mean the budgeted hours, excuse me.
I'm sorry, adding the budgeted hours to the.
You mean
work
another
plan.
column that would have projected hours? Is there a second to Ms. Henn's motion?
Second, Stileski.
Thank you. And it's the same rationale as you did before, right? Mr. Young, discussion? She's not speaking to it because it's the same.
So I have a question for Ms. Barr, of course. You've planned this out and you've allocated, I think they said 10,000 hours related to this, and we've now added the implementation to that. So the expectation is you will have to go back and recalculate, or is the basic going to be the same, but this runs into the situation where you've talked about before, where this is a risk base, so this is potentially more work than you could accomplish within the year with the other carryover and investigations that may come up.
Yeah, you're correct. So we're going to have to go back and readjust the hours with the addition of the new project. And it may or may not push one of these projects into the next fiscal year, or we may have carryover. We may not get to it to the end of the fiscal year, and it may carry over into the next fiscal year. But we're going to have to go back through now and readjust the hours with the addition of the new project.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Further discussion? Okay, roll call vote, but can you please read what we're voting on?
To add the budgeted hours to the work plan for FY27.
And Madam Chair, I also put it in the chat if you'd like me to reread it.
Okay.
I move to amend the FY27 work plan by adding the budgeted hours for each audit area.
So we're still not voting on the work plan yet. We're just, okay. May I have a roll call? I'm sorry, go ahead, Ms. Frempong.
Can we amend and just say instead of budgeted, projected hours?
You just want to change the language, Ms. Frempong?
Yeah.
I'm happy to defer to whatever Ms. Barr would prefer.
Ms. Frempong, do you want to explain why
Well,
you?
that would be helpful, because it is a projection, just so we're clear that if we say it's going to just 1,000 hours,
So would you?
and it takes us 1,500 hours, we'll have the explanation as to why, but I think it's probably a better term to say projected budgeted hours.
Projected budgeted hours. I will modify that. Thank you, Ms. Frempong. Thank you, Ms. Barr.
Ms. Scover, did you get that? You're just adding the word projected in front of budgeted. Okay. Okay. Yes. Okay. Okay, so we're ready for a roll call vote.
Ms. Dominowski?
Yes.
Ms. Henn?
Yes.
Ms. Frempong?
Yes.
Ms. Agumbe?
Yes.
Ms. Dulesky?
Yes.
Dr. Savoy?
Yes.
Mr. McMillion? Ms. Pumphrey?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Ms. Lichter?
Yes.
Thank you.
Now, if I'm following the maze, we are back to the original motion, correct?
Correct.
As
As
amended,
amended.
right. So, do I have to say it again since, no? Okay, so roll call vote, please, on the original motion to approve the Office of Internal Audit Work Plan for FY 2027 as amended.
Ms. Dominowski?
Yes.
Ms. Henn?
Yes.
Ms. Frempong?
Yes.
Ms. Agumbe?
Yes.
Ms. Dulesky?
Yes.
Dr. Savoy?
Yes.
Mr. McMillion?
Yes.
Ms. Pumphrey?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Ms. Lichter?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Barr.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is contract awards, and for that I call Mr. Young. Let's try this one.
Members of the board's Building and Contracts Committee met on Monday, May 4th, 2026. Items 01 through 09 were forwarded to the full board for approval.
Thank you, Mr. Young. Board members, are there any separations being requested? Okay. Do I have a motion to approve items 01 through 09? Nope. Do I have a motion to approve items 01 through 09?
So moved, Agumbe.
Thank you. No second is needed since the recommendation comes from the committee. Is there any discussion? Ms. Frempong.
Thank you. I had a question on 2 of the contracts, I believe, so 03. What is the neglected and delinquent institution? I understand it's just a reconfiguration of the church, but what is the actual neglected and delinquent institution? Is that the church?
Don't believe Ms. Stansberry is here.
The consent to assignment of this contract from the Board of Child Care of the United Methodist Church Incorporated to the Board of Child Care of the United Methodist Church Incorporated, DBA Everstand. This is the result of a corporate merger and rebranding.
Ms. Webster, do you have anything to add?
I'm not Miss Stansbury,
I know you're
but I
not.
can attempt.
Contract title, Title I services.
This speaks to institutions that may be, where we have students attend that are eligible for Title I funding, but the money flows through BCPS. So the institutions are not neglected or delinquent.
Okay.
These are just places where students who would otherwise attend BCPS have chosen to attend. And we pay for Title I services for those students at that institution.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
And then the second one is for 06, the radio communications master contract. So again, this one sounds like it's not a change in terms, but because there's still negotiations happening, we just need the additional money to function in the same way that we're functioning until everything gets cleared up, I guess, with these negotiations. So we're just operating under the same terms of the existing agreement.
The state, I'm sorry, the state has extended their contract. We actually just got word today that they've extended it through November. So their new solicitation had some issues, so they are rebidding. So they're extending this current contract through November. In this exhibit, we're only asking for, I believe, a month. We will be bringing it back again in June for the full November extension.
Okay, and again, it'll be under the existing terms, the terms of the existing agreement?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Certainly.
Any other questions? Okay, may I have a roll call vote, please?
Ms. Dominowski?
Yes.
Ms. Henn?
Yes.
Ms. Frempong?
Yes.
Ms. Ogumbe?
Yes.
Ms. Streleski?
Yes.
Dr. Savoy?
Yes.
Mr. McMillian?
Yes.
Ms. Pumphrey?
Yes.
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Ms. Lichter?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you both. Okay. The next item on the agenda is the report on the quarterly financial report for the month ending March 2026. And for that, I call on Dr. Grimm and Mr. Tantliff.
Thank you. There should be a presentation. Good evening. We're here today to present the financial report, which you've all seen many times. So this is just an update through the end of March. For the general fund, you can see we spent $1.5 billion, which is 74% of our budget. And the bullet points there you're familiar with, that we comply with all requirements. Our revenues reported monthly. We get cash draws from the county when we need it, but state revenue comes automatically every other month. And other revenue is primarily our fund balance, and we get almost no federal revenue in the general fund, just ROTC a little bit. Next slide. Here you can just see by different activity what percent of the budget we've obligated through the end of March, and that's on the right. And then on the left, you can see each of the categories in the pie and how much the budget is for the full year versus what we've spent for the year. As you've heard many times before, payroll is 82% of our budget, payroll and benefits, so that's what consumes most of it. We report everything in accordance with MSDE reporting requirements, and this does not include the supplemental and BAT that you all approved tonight and that the council should approve on June 1st. Last slide. The last slide we have here just reports on our special revenue or grant budget. The budget is $257 million for the year, and that's the sum of all grants across multiple years that are still active. One minor note, the report in front of you did have an error on special revenue. This slide is correct, but the report will be reposted tomorrow just with that correction for the final page of the report. Grant programs are generally reimbursable, and for us, everything except concentration of poverty, I think, falls into that bucket. COP is by far our largest state grant, and that, as you all know, is fairly new since Blueprint came around. Title I, all the active grants equal $93.3 million, and IDA, pass-through special ed grant, is $63 million. And lastly, third-party billing Medicaid rolls up under special revenue. But those are all funds generated by our awesome third-party billing team, and that totals a little over $14 million. And thank you. That's what we have tonight on the financial report.
Thank you. Any questions? Ms. Domanowski?
So the 1.6 billion you said you already have designated to be spent, that's from this fiscal year up until March 31st. So going back to July 2025 to now.
Yes, that's how much we've spent year to date, either spent or encumbered through the end of March in the general fund.
So in the document that was provided to us for the budget line transfer, it covers all of that. Would it be 1.6 billion or would it be more?
Just the budget line transfer report equals zero. The budget line transfers are just moving dollars around, and that's just deals with the budget. So in theory, any budget dollars you have can be moved around, but it's a net of zero. This is talking about how much money we've actually spent. So it's invoices we've paid, cash out the door, or purchase orders that are encumbered where we're waiting for the products and goods to come or the bill to come and be put against that encumbrance and as we pay the invoice. So they're really unrelated activities.
They're unrelated. Is there a way to get that so we can see how much we've spent so far? Not if not a budget line transfer, but some other kind of accounting document that shows us what we've spent 1.6 billion on.
The report that we turn in, that was submitted for this month does have, I guess I wouldn't call it granular, but it does go through all of our expenditures through the year. So that's the primary method where we've been informing the board of our year-to-date expenditures.
But it's not like a statement or an invoice of actually showing you. It's more of a big picture or a high level overview of it. It doesn't go down into detail like what we spent on each contract to equal that 1.6 billion or what we spent on whatever.
I guess we'd need to understand exactly a little more what you were interested in seeing. I mean, there's thousands and thousands of financial transactions that have occurred. There's many thousands of transactions of payroll that have occurred.
There's thousands of account strings.
Thousands of account
Well, somehow
strings.
you got to the number of 1.6 billion. So other than those generalizing through, administration, instructional, however it's generalized, there's got to be some way that we can put that together where whether it's thousands and thousands or just something more than just one page general, this is what we spent the money on, and more of a specific invoice or statement, kind of like the budget line transfer, but just with what we've actually spent, not what money moving around, what we were actually spending. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I guess we would need to understand and develop a report that met the board's needs, similar to how we developed the budget line transfer report for budget committee several years ago and now are presenting to the board. I mean, again, there's a certain level of granularity that would probably be more than would be beneficial. Again, you could dump thousands and thousands of transactions out of the accounting system, but how would that help you? We can't,
Well, there's got to be some big ticket items as far as both the ERP and the $1 million contracts that we're putting out. Like that kind of stuff isn't so granular. It's not thousands. It's just a couple that make up the bigger. That would just be a little helpful. Thank you.
Any other questions about the quarterly financial report? Okay. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda is information which includes the final update on key school legislation and the meeting minutes of the November 17th, 2025 Southeast Area Education Advisory Council. The next item on the agenda is any board member comments and agenda setting. So if you have an agenda item or any comments, please. Ms. Zaleski?
Thank you. I want to thank those that reached out to us out of your concern about your changing workload as library media specialists. Clearly, this is an issue that continues to be important to many people, and there does seem to be some confusion about what happened with the budget. And thank you to TABCO for speaking on behalf of the library media specialists this evening. So I'm just requesting, in light of transparency and just make sure that this situation is fully transparent to the public, that two questions are answered. Based on the February 24th board meeting, when the motion was made to eliminate the two classes per day in terms of a teaching requirement, it seemed to be that that money was going to be reallocated to provide for that motion once it passed. So why was the request for county executive funding an additional ask instead of reconfiguring that money? Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments? Ms. Pumphrey?
I would like to request a report on the severe overcrowding at Overley High School, whether, maybe discuss whether we need an emergency boundary study. I've heard about the overcrowding, I've heard concerns about it, but I visited the school and saw it in person, and there are so many trailers in the back. My understanding is they're getting 2 more next year. I did want to point out that the students and staff are incredibly resilient with how they're responding to the overcrowding, staff members sharing offices, and it concerns me, so I'd like to address it. And also wanted to call out Principal Samples for her innovative ways of handling the overcrowding when there literally is no space for anyone. And I think oftentimes we have to hear from parents over and over again to come and address us about the overcrowding, but this particularly would be a group of students where we're not hearing from parents, but that doesn't mean that those students don't need our help. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Ms. Fromhung?
So May is Mental Health Awareness Month. As we come to the end of the school year, we have many students who are excited with the seniors graduating. They're ending this chapter of their life with high school and beginning a new chapter with their plans following high school. But this can also be an anxious time of year because we have projects, tests, AP exams, etc. So just want to remind the teachers, students, and staff to please be sure to take care of yourselves with self-care and mental health. Use those resources that are available. We even have Talkspace here in BCPS. Reach out to loved ones. There has been a stigma for too long of admitting that you need help or having trouble. And there is no shame in admitting that you're not fine, and there's no shame in seeking healing. So people do, and they would understand. You are not a burden. You do not have to struggle alone. So break your silence, speak your truth, and heal. And we're healing together. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Frempong, for your comments. My comment is to Ms. Pumphrey and Ms. Forsythe, not Ms. Forsythe, Ms. Sangavi. I just want to thank you for the words that you spoke and the courage that you had to say that language matters, and our children, our students, nobody deserves to be belittled through the language that is used. So I really appreciate you both speaking up on behalf of our kids. The last item on the agenda are announcements. The board will hold a virtual public hearing on the FY 2028 capital budget on Wednesday, May 13th, 2026 at 6:30 p.m. This is for input on the upcoming capital projects budget process to be held this summer. Online registration opens tomorrow, May 6th, and closes at 3 p.m. on May 12th. The link to register is in board docs and can also be found on the participation by the public page. The board's next meeting will be held on Tuesday, May 19th, 2026 at Ms. Pumphrey.
I apologize for interrupting you, but I forgot one very important thing, to say Happy Teacher Appreciation Day to our teachers and Happy Teacher Appreciation Week to our teachers.
Thank you. But we're still going to have a meeting on the Tuesday, May 19th, 2026 at 6:30 p.m. Thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight. The meeting is now adjourned.